Before I dive into the story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments what you would have done if you were in my shoes, because after what happened on my street, you might start double-checking your own neighbors. It started with the sound of metal striking bone. A single heavy crack that sliced through the quiet of our perfect little suburb. The kind of sound that makes your heart stop before your brain even catches up. I ran outside barefoot, half awake, and there she was, Karen, standing over our mailman with a metal bat raised high above her head. Her robe hung open, hair wild, eyes blazing with something far beyond anger. The mailman, Mr. Alvarez, lay sprawled on the concrete, his cap rolling slowly into the gutter, blood pooling beneath him. "Stay back," she screamed when she saw me. "He's been stealing. I caught him. He's been in my mail again." Police sirens were already echoing down the street. Neighbors peeked from behind blinds, phones out, filming. I could taste the metal of fear on my tongue, a sour, electric feeling. That's how it ended. But the story really began weeks before that night. Back when Karen's rage was still just an inconvenience, not a weapon. I became HOA president last spring, mostly because no one else wanted the job. I figured it would be easy, approve fence colors, schedule lawn maintenance, maybe deal with a few noise complaints. But in this neighborhood, there was always one person who thought the rules didn't apply to them. And her name was Karen Whitfield. Karen was the kind of person who believed authority was a personal insult. Every meeting, every email, every decision the HOA made somehow became a conspiracy against her. She'd show up to board meetings in oversized sunglasses and an attitude that could curdle milk, waving printed screenshots and claiming we were suppressing her property rights. The first time I met her in person, she marched right up to me while I was trimming my hedges. "You're the new president?" she asked, her tone dripping with skepticism. "That's right," I said, trying to sound friendly. "Well, I hope you're not like the last one. He thought he could find me for my garden gnomes. Those were art pieces." I smiled politely. "I'm sure we can work together." She squinted at me. "We'll see." From that day on, working together turned into a full-time job. It started small, late HOA dues, ignored lawn notices, a few angry emails about illegal mail surveillance. I brushed it off at first. Every HOA has a complainer, right? But then she started targeting people. One week it was the Johnsons for parking too close to her driveway. Then it was the Miller's kids for playing too loud. But when she turned her attention to Mr. Alvarez, our mailman, things changed. Mr. Alvarez had been delivering in our neighborhood for nearly 10 years. Always smiling, always taking time to wave at the kids. He even left dog biscuits in the mailboxes for the pets. But Karen? She was convinced he was reading her mail. She claimed he was part of some HOA surveillance operation. I tried reasoning with her. "Karen, he's a federal employee," I said during one of her rants outside the community center. "He delivers to everyone. No one's spying on you." She jabbed her finger at me, her eyes twitching. "You're in on it? You and that old man, don't think I don't see what's happening." The next morning she was waiting for him. I watched from my porch as she stood by her mailbox with her phone recording, shouting accusations. "Caught you red-handed," she yelled while he simply handed her mail and walked away with the patience of a saint. Later, she posted the footage online with a caption that read, "Mail fraud in broad daylight, HOA corruption runs deep." The video got maybe 20 views, but that was enough for her. She doubled down. Flyers appeared on every mailbox. "Wanted, mail thief." Each one had Mr. Alvarez's face, printed from the footage she took. I ripped one off mine and brought it to her doorstep. "This has to stop," I told her. "You're harassing an innocent man." She smiled, the kind of smile that made you feel colder the longer it lasted. "Oh, it's not harassment if I'm right." The next HOA meeting was chaos. She stormed in mid-discussion, holding a stack of her own evidence. Blurry screenshots, envelopes with supposed tampering marks, and even photos of her own mailbox with scratches she claimed were break-in attempts. "You people think you can control me?" she shouted. "You can't fine me for protecting myself." "Karen," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "no one's fining you for that. But you can't accuse people without proof." She slammed her binder on the table, scattering papers everywhere. "Proof? I am the proof." That was the moment I realized logic would never reach her. The HOA board voted to fine her for harassment and unauthorized postings. When I delivered the letter myself, she tore it in half and tossed it onto her lawn. "You'll regret this," she hissed, stepping closer. "People like you always do." I didn't sleep much that night. I replayed her words, that wild look in her eyes, over and over. The next morning, security footage surfaced. Karen smashing mailboxes at 2 a.m., shouting something about liberation. It wasn't just paranoia anymore, it was escalation. I filed a police report, sent copies of the footage to the Postal Service, and informed every homeowner to keep their distance. But deep down I knew something worse was coming. Karen had crossed from nuisance to threat. And then came the day everything broke. It was just after dawn. The street was quiet, pale sunlight spilling over dew-covered lawns. I was sipping my coffee when I heard her voice, high, furious, echoing down the block. "I told you to stop taking my mail." By the time I reached the end of my driveway, I saw it unfold. Mr. Alvarez stood by her mailbox, confusion on his face, hands raised in surrender. Then, without hesitation, she swung the bat. The sound was hollow and final. He dropped instantly. My mug shattered against the pavement as I ran. Neighbors rushed out, screaming. Karen turned toward us, bat still dripping red. "He had it coming," she yelled. "He's a thief. They all are." The sirens grew louder, flashing red and blue reflecting off her porch. She didn't even flinch when they cuffed her, just kept screaming about conspiracies and stolen letters. As the ambulance pulled away and the crowd slowly dispersed, I stood there shaking, coffee cooling on my hands, realizing how close we'd come to seeing something far worse. When I signed up to lead the HOA, I thought I'd be handling fences and paint colors, not crime scenes. But standing there in the morning light, I knew one thing for sure. Karen Whitfield had finally crossed a line she couldn't talk her way out of. And somehow I had a feeling this was only the beginning. The news spread faster than wildfire. By the next morning, every local outlet had the same headline: "Suburban Woman Attacks Mailman Over HOA Dispute." The photo that accompanied it, Karen in handcuffs, hair tangled, eyes wide with fury, became the neighborhood's unofficial warning sign. For once, every house on the block seemed united, but not out of pride, out of disbelief. Mr. Alvarez survived, thank God. He suffered a concussion, a fractured cheekbone, and more emotional scars than anyone deserved. When I visited him in the hospital, he managed a faint smile. "I thought she just didn't like my deliveries," he joked weakly. But beneath the humor I could see the trauma. His wife sat quietly by the bed, gripping his hand like she was afraid he might disappear. That was the moment I made a promise, to him, to our neighborhood, and to myself, that Karen wouldn't escape accountability this time. Her arrest wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a long, ugly battle. Overnight, her family and a handful of loyal defenders began spinning a story online. "She was provoked," they wrote. "She's mentally unwell." The HOA president harassed her for months. They painted her as the victim, twisting facts until people who had never set foot on our street were demanding her release. But what they didn't know was that we had everything: footage from the HOA cameras, witness statements, police reports, even her own rant-filled posts accusing the mailman of being part of a postal surveillance ring. It was all there, time-stamped, undeniable. When the trial began, the courtroom buzzed with tension. Reporters filled every bench, notebooks ready, cameras waiting for their perfect shot. I sat beside the prosecutor as a witness, my palms slick with sweat. Karen entered wearing an ill-fitting gray suit, her hair tied back, eyes darting from face to face. She looked smaller than I remembered, but the venom was still there. When the judge asked her to confirm her name, she smirked. Karen Whitfield. The woman this neighborhood couldn't handle. A murmur rippled through the room. Her lawyer whispered something to her, but she brushed him off. The prosecution opened with the footage, grainy but unmistakable. Karen standing in her driveway yelling, "Caught you red-handed," before swinging the bat. The sound played through the speakers, echoing off the courtroom walls. Gasps filled the air. The jury winced. Even the judge's jaw tightened. Then came the witnesses, neighbors, police officers, even the paramedics who'd arrived first. Their testimonies painted the same picture. A woman consumed by obsession, a community that tried to help her, and a line that she crossed willingly. When it was my turn to take the stand, I kept my words simple. "She wasn't provoked," I said. "She was warned. She was given every chance to stop. But she didn't want peace, she wanted control." Karen's lawyer tried to rattle me, suggesting the HOA had targeted her. I didn't flinch. "If enforcing rules and protecting people makes me a target," I said, "then so be it." That's when Karen lost it. She slammed her hand on the table. "You're lying. You're all in on it." Her lawyer grabbed her arm, whispering furiously, but she jerked away. "They've been against me from the start." The judge's gavel struck the bench sharply. "Mrs. Whitfield, one more outburst and you'll be held in contempt." She leaned forward, eyes burning. You already are contempt. The room erupted in whispers. The judge sighed deeply, signaling to the bailiff. Karen was escorted out temporarily to calm down, though everyone knew there was no calming her anymore. When she returned, her arrogance had curdled into desperation. Her lawyer's closing statement was little more than a plea for leniency, citing stress and community pressure. The prosecutor, on the other hand, was merciless. This wasn't stress, he said. This was ego turned violent. This was pride without conscience. And today it ends. The jury deliberated for just under 2 hours. The verdict, guilty on all counts, landed like a thunderclap. Karen's eyes darted around the courtroom, searching for anyone who might save her. But there was no one left. The judge sentenced her to several years in federal prison for aggravated assault on a federal employee, plus restitution and mandatory psychiatric evaluation. As the guards led her away, she turned to me. You think you've won? This isn't over. Her voice cracked, less fury now, more fear. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. The neighborhood changed after that. For the first time in years, people smiled when they passed each other. Kids played freely again without worrying about being yelled at. The HOA meetings became almost pleasant. We even decided to rename the community garden in honor of Mr. Alvarez. He came to the ribbon cutting with a cane and a grin, joking that he never thought he'd have a garden named after him for delivering bills. But even in peace, echoes of her remained. Sometimes on quiet mornings I'd pass her old house and catch myself glancing at the window, half expecting to see her silhouette staring back. The new owners replaced the mailbox she destroyed. Painted it blue. Strong, solid. A small symbol that the neighborhood could heal. Then one day, months later, I got a letter. No return address, just my name scrawled in jagged handwriting. Inside was a single page. You'll regret what you did, it read. You all will. No signature, but I didn't need one. I could almost hear her voice. I handed it straight to the police. They told me she'd been writing letters from prison to anyone she blamed, judges, neighbors, even the mayor. I should have been angry, but all I felt was tired. Later that week, I stood at the edge of the Alvarez garden during our summer HOA event. Families gathered, laughter filling the air, kids chasing each other around sprinklers. The sound was alive again, warm, human. I watched the mail truck pull up, a new carrier stepping out, young, cheerful, unscarred by the past. He waved and everyone waved back. That's when I realized Karen's legacy wasn't the chaos she caused. It was the unity that grew from surviving it. She tried to divide us, but in the end she did the opposite. She made neighbors out of strangers. As the sun set behind the houses, I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of it all finally lift. Being HOA president had nearly broken me, but maybe that's what it takes to hold a community together. A little pain, a lot of patience, and one unforgettable lesson in what happens when pride turns to madness. I turned toward the camera crew filming for the local station, their reporter smiling as she wrapped up the segment. Anything you'd like to say for the record, Mr. President? I smiled. Yeah. Keep your mailboxes sturdy, your lawns trimmed, and your tempers shorter than your grass. Trust me, it's better that way. They laughed. The sound was easy, unforced. As I walked home, the sprinklers came on again, mist catching the last of the light. The neighborhood looked almost perfect. Finally calm, finally safe. And somewhere far away, in a place with locked doors and gray walls, Karen Whitfield was learning that control doesn't mean freedom. It means confinement. For the first time in a long time, I slept without fear.